Welcome back, guys, to the 11th episode of 11 Bang Gang. I have here Kenny Dupar, who spent many years in the Army Reserve. So this is going to be a great story. This guy right here has done it all. If he's seen it all, so very illustrious career all the way to a lieutenant colonel. So I'm going to talk him up. So hopefully he can live up to the legend here. Go ahead and say hi, Kenny.
Hi, Kenny. I did 30 years in the Army Reserve, and I don't know about illustrious as, quasi, well, I shouldn't say criminal, but I mean, I did some weird things when I was overseas. I was at interesting places at interesting times, and I am just fascinated by the Marine Corps, and I've just always had an affinity for that, but I don't understand the Marine Corps. It's just too tough. There was no way I was going to do that.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people say that, but it really, and honestly, that's why I ask if you've heard any of my other episodes, I ask when people go to boot camp, expectation versus reality. And I ask that question because like there were people in boot camp that I had talked myself up. This organization was never going to let them in. And then when they got in, I was like, oh no, this dude got in. And I was actually kind of disappointed in one or two circumstances. So it's not as crazy as people think. But
the Army will take anybody. Okay, and there's a waiver for anything. And I went to Fort Knox, which was comparable to Fort Benning, which is the infantry school. I began my career thinking that I wanted to be infantry. And I did a lot of hua training and, land navigation, ruck runs, rappelling, rope bridges, patrolling. Patrolling I thought was just so much fun. But the infantry, that's a young man's game. And jumping out of perfectly good airplanes, it just didn't make any sense to me after a while. I'm like, you want me to do what?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it truly is like I was talking about this the other day because I was thinking, and I was talking about this with John on the last episode, it's the guys who execute wars and who go to war. When we're 18, we look at first sergeant, we're like, oh, he's super old, right? But he's really like 35, maybe 40. So, all these guys that are doing this aren't old. These are young men, and you're right. It's a young man's game, and you can't convince young men to go do stuff like that anyway, or you can't convince older men. Young dudes is easier. Just like, hey, dude, you want a gun and some money and a chance to go drink booze in foreign countries around the world? Like, yeah, sign me up. That's usually.
Oh yeah. I mean, when when your body recovers from a hangover in just like 15 minutes, yeah, you're indestructible at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well, to the listeners, I hope you all had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I woke up this morning, the day we record this, we struck Venezuela, or well, we didn't strike them. We did some strikes. So basically some new SEAL or Delta Force guy is going to be writing a book about this raid. So stand by for that, for the special operations, but we captured Maduro. I think this is a play for oil, to be honest. I think this is a play for controlling the Southern Hemisphere and oil. Kenny, you were around for Iraq, that whole thing. And there was kind of we didn't know exactly weapons of mass destruction. I don't know if we ever found those. But, what do you think about the Venezuela? Do you think this might just be a in and out like we did in the 80s, or do you think this might become a protracted conflict?
I don't think it would become protracted. I remember when Bush invaded Iraq. Of course, I was there like in the first inning. I thought that he might rename Iraq New Texas. It's like, you're going to take the oil? You're going to take the oil, right? You're going to take the oil for all this bullshit? You're going to take the oil, right? New Texas would have been good, because you got Mexico, you got New Hampshire. I mean, we've done it a lot. So anyway, for this one, the Donald, and I say that with all affection because I'm still retired. I'm retired, so I still somewhat work for the president of the United States. He could actually call me back onto active duty, but I'm so broken that's never going to happen. Venezuela gives a lot of free oil to Cuba.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that Donald is going to give away stuff for free. So
Yeah.
if he just stops the ship, if he just stops the oil going to Cuba, what happens to those guys? The Castro brothers. I don't know if who's still in charge.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. One of the things that it, that when you study it, when you watch the news can be too, convoluted sometimes. When you really look at the facts, Venezuela sells oil to the countries that we sanction around the world. They send oil to Iran, they send oil to Russia, they send oil to China. Those all have backdoor deals with them. This is a geopolitical play. Now, yeah, I do think that this may have been the best way to do it. We've had a couple wannabe regime changes down there. I was surprised that the military finally took action, but I think the CIA's kind of kicked the can down the road for a while and was unsuccessful. So, but
how did they know where this dude was? And they got his wife at the same time. It's like it's like they just like landed on the roof of their palace and just like shimmied down the windows and got in there and be like, "Wake up, asshole!" I mean, it's like, and that's where the book's going to come from. And one thing that I found was that as far as Iraq and Afghanistan is concerned, it's the special operators, it's the Marine officers, it's the guys who are doing kinetic, no shit operations where they're risking their lives that got they're the ones that wrote the books and stuff like that. When I wrote my goofy engineer adventures, it's like it's out in left field, because I'm not normal, like a setting on a washing machine. I don't.
yeah,
My military experiences. I was 17 when 9/11. I was in the service for 17 years when 9/11 happened. How old were you? I'm old. I'm dating that.
I don't remember how old I was. I think I was in eighth grade, I think, when
Really?
9/11 happened. Yeah, I was super young, but like that was my thing, man. Like I wanted, like, we talked about it on the last episode, but me and John did. Like we grew up watching the Iraq War. So when like my most crucial phase of growing up, high school, I was watching Fallujah. I read the book by 3-1 Weaver. I think it was, yeah, no, it was, I don't remember the name of the book, but anyway, yeah, like Sergeant Major Castle, that whole thing went down with him in the kill house in Fallujah. And so like when I graduated high school, that's all I wanted to do, man. Like I joined the Marines and I was like, let's go to Iraq. And they were like, and then I never got that chance and went to Afghanistan. And I was like, oh, I didn't sign up for this. I've never seen this country. But
I did 2 year-long deployments to Iraq. What I like to call the first inning and then the 9th inning. In between, I trained troops, counterinsurgency stuff, and I had orders to go to Afghanistan, but the President Obama was drawn down,
yeah,
and the billet went away, and it was kind of like, you mean I have to go back to the civilian world? Please, no. The civilian world was so frightening. I can I just go to Afghanistan? It's the train. How was your transition out?
oh, like out of the military?
Yeah, because
Oh,
I've talked to infantry guys, and it seems like there really isn't a 1-for-1 from running and gunning to the civilian world. Well, yeah, I know you guys are going to show up every single day, and you'll be early, right?
Yeah.
You'll never take a sick day, I mean, and all like that. But
well, the one thing is I kind of had it I kind of had it good in the sense that I changed my job after the infantry. I spent another 4 as a wing guy. I worked on the V-22 tilt rotor helicopters. And so when I did that for another 4 years, it kind of took me down a notch to like the semi-civilian kind of, you're still in the military, but you're working like a semi-normal job, right? And then I get out. Now I'm a farmer. I don't work around anybody. I have 350,000 chickens in me and one dude and a boss. So yeah, I live a pretty. This is my talking to people on this podcast. So yeah.
Wow. So you went from, so you've got another extremely difficult profession.
Yeah. It's pretty physical, but I love it, man. Like it keeps me on my toes. Yeah, and I just work a lot. I work like 7 days a week, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of people wonder about, but it really depends on the person. I've talked to guys that've gotten out and been like, "Hey, I walked, bro. I was in Afghanistan, and then a year later, I was out and I was a civilian." And some dudes are like, "I was out 4 months later." After deployment.
One of the things I'd like to talk about too is post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And I'm on this bandwagon of like, get rid of the D.
Yeah.
In it's not a disorder. Some asshole just wrote that down one time. Some guy in a lab coat. I think it's probably just your body's natural reaction to incredible stress, whether it's, there could be just a whole host of things. I thought Iraq was very pleasant because I was married to, well, let me just say this. I got my trauma from my first wife. Iraq was peaceful. No one yelled at me. It was fine.
Right. Okay. Well, we're going to get into it. Let's go ahead and rock into it. So I'm going to ask you, we're just going to go in chronological order. I know we're going to breeze through a lot of the early time, but where did you grow up? First of all, let's go with that first.
I've lived in a lot of places, and California, Texas, Wisconsin. I lived in Wisconsin for most of my life, but then in my adult life, I've moved so much with the service and as a tradesman, as a carpenter, have hammer, will travel. So after about moving like 30 times, I just stopped counting. Now I live in East Tennessee,
Yeah.
Oh, I love it here. Yeah. Knoxville.
Yeah. It's great. Okay. So when you said you were in the, when did you know you wanted to join the Army? Cause you said you went in the reserves. Did you go reserve straight off the bat or did you go active duty?
I went reserves. I enlisted because I was in college and I boloed a 5-credit calculus course, like a huge Franklin. And all of a sudden I'm like, I'm about ready to get kicked out of school, man. And this ain't cool. And so I need discipline now. I need someone to run every morning. And so I joined the ROTC. And this was at Wisconsin, so it's a massive school. It was like 55,000 graduate and undergraduate, and then the Army ROTC there was like 40 people.
Wow, really? I thought it would have been bigger.
Oh, it was tiny because it was the mindset. But all the squared away cadets or cadidiots were prior service.
Yeah,
and so I quickly enlisted and I went to Fort Knox for two summers. Invaluable military training.
Yeah.
And, it was a good decision all the way. And then I was running a marathon, so I ended up doing 30.
So I got to ask you this real quick. So you were in RTC, so you kind of knew what was coming. And when you went and did your basic training and stuff, how was that? Was it what you expected, or was it better or worse?
It was worse. I was in shape.
Yeah.
But I remember once, when I did my initial PT test, I did 96 sit-ups in 2 minutes. And the drill sergeants overheard a conversation saying that I didn't think that the PT was hard enough.
Oh shit.
And so one morning, in front of the entire company, the senior drilling sergeant says, "Private Dupar doesn't think that we're working out hard enough." I'm like, I know I just got the shit kicked out of me. I know it, and so
Mm-mm.
I was in really good shape. And
Yeah.
so then they found out that I had some college, and then they put me in charge of the platoon and made me a platoon guide, which was a disaster. So I got fired from that. I was a squad leader. I got fired from that. I was like by the end of the cycle, the only thing they let me do is be the road guard, and I was fine with that. You know, I don't
Man.
want to be. It's like herding cats. I don't want to do that. That's
I mean, my thing is the people told me not to volunteer for everything, anything. They were like, just
right.
chill, just blend in with the crowd, dude, make it through. There's no reason to put but it was funny. Now that I look back, I'm like, I should have been a squad leader, but I would have sucked as a platoon leader. I agree. I would have got fired in like 3 days. It would have been quick. But okay, so you move on from that. You go, and so what do you do? You're an engineer. So what does an engineer in the Army do?
There's so in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, right? Proud tradition, uh, goes back to even before the creation of the Army, actually.
Yeah.
So you're doing just a theoretically, you could do just all different kinds of things. So you've got the combat engineers
Right.
who are working with the infantry, breaching obstacles, doing things so that the maneuver unit can just do that maneuver. So you could do
Yeah.
bridging. You could go through. Um, you could breach minefields, any sort of obstacle, whatever it could be. You could be doing demolitions, but you're also like digging in, helping the armored vehicles do a half hull defilade type of thing, and they had half-ass bulldozer blades, and then the part of the Corps of Engineers that I was in was the heavy construction.
Mm.
So with the heavy construction, which is what I deployed with the first time, there were both vertical assets and horizontal. And what we mean by vertical is anything that you build from the ground up. So carpenters, electricians, pipe fitters, survey sections, that type of thing. And then we had the horizontal, which means you've got your road graders and excavators, bulldozers, scrapers, rollers, all different, anything that you need to
Yeah.
build a road. And
Right.
so I deployed with those guys with the Corps of Engineers in 2003 to Iraq, and we got to BIOP and Baghdad International Airport, and we
Yeah.
started building the entry control points.
Man. Yeah, and it's like the thing is for those of you who aren't familiar with history, understand that like this Army Corps of Engineers, this is not like a job where it's like, oh, I'm going to join this and I'm never going to see combat. If you look at the Pacific, those dudes were building runways while shooting Japs with a machine gun. If you look at Vietnam, those dudes, Army Corps of Engineers, built roads through Vietnam straight through combat zones. And I mean, these are places that, yeah, they were considered quote unquote safer, but these guys were in legit danger. I mean, that this is no chill job for those of you who kind of took that as how he said it. It's not that it's an active, infantry job, but it's still what I'm saying is it's not without its risk. These guys do good work for the infantry because when we move, like he said, we've got to be able to move a massive logistics train. A tank burns so many gallons of fuel. They are fuel beasts, and the problem is you got to get that fuel to the front line. So when you move entire battalions through a country like Iraq, you have to have infrastructure behind it to back up the logistics train. You've seen that a lot in World War II. The Nazis would outrun their logistics trains. You can lose a war that way. So anyway, okay, so I know you were a private for a couple years or a
Yes.
short time, and then you went to the dark side. So explain your decision to do that and become an officer.
Well, if you're just the type of personality where you don't care what people think about you, and you're just generally unliked anyway, going to the dark side is all right.
Yeah.
My father was a naval officer briefly. He got out of the Navy in 1962, that lucky bastard. And his father was a first sergeant in the Army
Wow.
back in World War One. He probably lied about his age, and he fought in the Philippines prior to World War One. So I had some military history in my family, but um, I mean, okay, so it's more responsibility, it's more money,
Yeah.
and even at the age of like 19, I'm thinking, if I do 20 years, I can get a federal pension,
Right.
and it's like, you know, now like a third of it goes to my ex-wife, and she she might have been in Iraq and I just didn't see her. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
She could have been there. I'm not sure. She didn't do squat, but I mean, hey, what's a it's just a lot of money, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I remember looking at, cause I thought I had like 2 or 3 officers give me a package and they're like, please go, officer. They're like, you have the personality, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, guys, I'm done. I want to get out. And they're like, no, man. But my whole thing was, in the Marine Corps, you can't control your destiny. If you become an officer, unless you're a pilot, you cannot control where you go. They will send you, you can have quote unquote choices, but we all know how that goes in the military. Yeah. But, anyway, so, you do some years. What year do you become an officer? What year is this now?
Ooh, okay. 1991.
Okay, 91. So during 91 Desert Storm, I'm assuming you were y'all just either weren't activated or you didn't go on that.
Oh, well, when the Gulf War happened,
Yeah.
the Army downsized from 16 divisions to 12.
Wow.
I only had one plan, which is to go active duty Army.
Right.
I wanted infantry, or when I was enlisted, I was a tanker. So I'm like, active duty armor, that sounds great. But the Army downsized and they didn't need any brand new second lieutenants. So, yeah, it's one of those situations in life where you need to go to plan B, but you ain't got no plan B.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna drink some rum and cokes for about 6 months and figure this out. And
Yeah.
whatever happens. So I ended up in the reserves.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make me reserve infantry, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I can't 1 weekend a month to run around in the woods in Wisconsin. I'm like, I don't feel like doing that. So I saw the light, and I found an engineer battalion that sent me to school. And then on the weekends, we were going into Milwaukee doing HUD projects and things like that. We were actually in the community doing little or big service projects.
Yeah.
So it was cool that like.
That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't know they did that. That's cool. So so yeah, in your off time, since you're a reservist, you're just doing construction? That's what you're doing, like contract work, stuff like that?
Yeah, since I tried a model of starting from, so I was a private, and then I went to the dark side, as you said, and then as an engineer, I decided, well, I'm going to start an apprenticeship. I'm begin a carpenter apprenticeship, ground up, and it took me 20 years to get the two careers to intersect.
Yeah.
As far as having the skill set over time, as far as bending nails and the construction management piece. And so I ended up years down the road as a traveling superintendent doing hospitality. I worked in California a lot, remodeling hotels, retail, stuff like that.
Wow.
But yeah, it was commercial carpentry and, get her done.
Yeah.
I don't care what it looks like, get her done.
Good. That sounds like all the houses they build down here in Georgia. Okay. So you 9/11 obviously happens in 2000. You're at this point, what rank are you when 9/11 happens?
I was captain.
You were captain. Okay. So you captain in the engineers. The 9/11 happens. I'm assuming the Army did not go to, well, your unit didn't go to Afghanistan. Of course, not at first. They're not going to. So you finally get to Iraq. How do you finally get to Iraq? So when did you go? 2003, 2004. So
That was
around the initial invasion?
OIF 1.
OIF 1.
Yeah. And so my reserve unit was picked apart, and they needed soldiers to fill vacancies or empty billets in other units,
Yeah.
cross-leveled. And so the battalion that I went with out of Iowa, they about a third of us were cross-leveled. So we didn't know who each other were. We had never worked with each other, which kind of had a weird dynamic to it because people really didn't give a shit as far as what we would do. Not professionally, but we were ethically challenged. My book is called Scoundrels in Iraq because we did things allegedly that, you couldn't. There's reality in the States, but when you go overseas, the rules change.
Yeah. They did.
And not getting caught is very important. I don't know if I answered your question, but
No, you did. So you end up going with that engineer battalion. But yeah, I mean, like the thing is especially OIF 1 was the Wild West. I mean,
it was Wild West. Yeah.
I mean, I heard crazy stories about people sending AK parts back in boxes back home. I mean, just insane stuff before they started to crack down on that. I mean, dudes just blowing stuff up with 203s randomly. I mean, like not even like combat operation stuff, just blowing stuff up, just doing wild stuff. I mean, it's insane. So
I described it as having our ass in both hands. And, we didn't have up armored anything. So we're coming from the Army Reserve. So we're the redheaded stepchild. So we get the hand-me-downs. And so we've got Humvees with the vinyl side doors. So we just took the doors off. And so we're driving around Baghdad looking for projects and things like this. And hardly any weapons. But the population was in shock because they're like, where the hell's Saddam? He's been beating the hell out of us for 30 years. Where is he? And the kids are giving you a thumbs up. And we were just driving around, just being so cool and just so stupid. It's like we were just begging. We were just begging to draw fire. And we can't defend ourselves, But,
so you get to Baghdad. I'm assuming, did y'all fly into Kuwait or did y'all drive into Iraq from Kuwait?
Yeah, that was we crossed the berm, I think, on May 30th of 2003. So combat operations supposedly had ceased. And it was an interesting convoy in. We got to Baghdad International Airport, and the mission was, enter control points, help to secure the footprint, because it's actually two airports in one. It's like having like O'Hare and JFK airports back to back. So you had a footprint of like 25 square miles, something like that. And so there's a lot of stuff and then there's bomb damage and stuff like that. But when we get there, our battalion commander, Nitro Nick, he tries to tell us that there's this thing called General Order 1 Alpha. And in General Order 1 Alpha, alcohol is prohibited. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm from Milwaukee. Okay, wait a minute. I know the history of warfare. This isn't right. This is not right. You can't do this. Can't. This is a war. You can't prohibit soldiers from getting drunk. Why are you doing this? For safety. safety, it's like, when in the history of warfare, it's like, okay, this is going to suck.
I'm going to tell you right now, Iraq and Afghanistan were the most sober wars the U.S. has ever fought.
It can be done. It could be done. And I don't know if it made anything, it may have made things safer, but, I lost a lot of weight.
I bet you did.
No beer at the point of a gun, right? And I'm like, for a year, I'm like, I'm from Milwaukee, right? Anyway.
Yeah, man.
But what that did is that just pissed off people to the point where it's like, well, I'm here now. Catch me if you can.
I mean, I knew some people that partook, but it's different. I mean, it's different because, when you have these, so I'm assuming that airfield got mega quick. I mean, I'm assuming we pushed in so many logistical assets that place became a bustling city quickly. While you were there.
I've listened to a few of your podcasts, and I think that you had traveled through Baghdad before, so you must have been through Baghdad International Port or Camp Liberty.
No, that might have been one of my guests. I've never stepped foot in Iraq. I've been 100 yards from the border. Yeah, no, I never went to Iraq. I went to Afghanistan. I've been to Kuwait, but I've never been to Iraq. So, yeah.
There were 50,000 troopers in Baghdad International Airport within, the active duty Bubbas rotated back out, and they were replaced by a lot of Guard and Reserve, because the Guard and Reserve is where you have your MPs, your engineers, your medical.
Right.
And so it was designed so that those units could step in and get there in support of, the commander on the ground, which was then it was like stabilization operations.
Right.
And it was the Wild West because our leadership, I described it as the post-combat plan was written on a cocktail napkin.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't published. So nobody knew.
No.
Why are we here? What do you want us to do?
Now, was there legit questions like that? I mean, of course, you had a mission. They were like, "Hey, you need to build this. You need to build up the ECP points and stuff for Baghdad International." So you had a mission, but I mean, I'm assuming there had to have been some troops on the ground at that time that were just like, "What are we doing?"
It was crazy. It was confusing. We didn't know when we were going to rotate home. Right. Some units ended up getting extended and whatnot. As I can tell from my level, since the U.S. government was making this shit up too,
yeah, for sure.
They had a transitional government, and sometimes you get leaders who are put into places of responsibility where it's like, okay, you should have been a squad leader and stopped, but now you're an 07.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. It's like, hey man, you're doing a lot of effed up stuff, and then politicians they're gambling with people's lives.
Yeah.
And because you just don't know, there's so many unknowns. And then the insurgency started to grow.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden there were roadside bombs. It's like, ooh, what's that?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, that was what I was going to ask. So I know that y'all got mortared and rocketed. I seen that when I read a little bit about your first book and stuff. So I know when you guys first got there, after the combat operations were declared over, it kind of cooled down there for a bit. But then, like you said, it started to heat up. The insurgency started to pick up. It took them a little bit of time to recover from the initial invasion. I'm sure that was a shock for for those guys. But once that wore off and they started figuring out, okay, yeah, we can blow these dudes up or we can rocket them. Did you guys how did the atmosphere kind of change where it went from like, okay, yeah, we're relatively safe here to being like, no, man, we might get schwacked over here. So
we were so busy shitting a brick because of the fact that Baghdad has like 8 million people in it.
Mm.
And so, and you'd have a force of 50,000 troopers. And so you've got like one trooper for every 200 civilians. So, and you're going to be in your forward operating base at night. You're not going to be screwing around then. And then you had the death squads running around because, Alex, what I tell people is to understand the war in Iraq, you have to look through the lens of the Sunni Shia schism. And this people aren't taught this in school, but in Islam, as soon as Muhammad died, both his uncle and his nephew were at each other's throats, right? But they both wanted power. I hope I don't piss anybody off with that deranged explanation. But when Saddam was gone, the majority Arab population who are Shia, they rose up and they went after their tormentors. So they would run around their former oppressors, and they would capture people, and they would do things like take cordless drills and put in a half-inch drill bit in there and just drill through people's kneecaps, stuff like that, because it was the Wild West, because there was no police force, because the army was their police force, and we sure as shit weren't going out at night.
No, yeah.
And so you had al-Baghdadi rose up and different factions, and then the Sunnis. Most Muslims in the world are Sunnis, Mecca, Medina, that type of thing. So they lost power, and they were the ones that began the insurgent stuff, the IEDs. So to understand the war, you have to get past. You have to look at that religious schism that's been going on in Islam for 1,500 years. It's like Northern Ireland, the Catholics and the Protestants, times 1,000, having on for so the IED started popping up. There were artillery shells buried in the dirt all over the place. So they would fix them to guardrails along the side of the road, and then wire detonate them. And then it was a cat and mouse thing over years where they would bury them. You had remote detonation with your garage door opener, and then the military had rhinos. They had different ways of trying to defeat the IEDs. And when I was on the trail as a trainer, we did we trained route reconnaissance. So then you had the Huskies with the ultra penetrating radar, the ground radar that could go down like 3 feet.
Yeah.
That was developed as quickly as humanly possible.
Man. Yeah, the Huskies were great. We used some of the Huskies in Afghanistan. They were pretty cool. I thought they were an interesting thing, but those route clearance dudes, man, they lived on the road. Man, I felt sorry for those guys because sleeping in a truck sucks.
Going like 2 kilometers an hour for the entire war. And I couldn't.
Not for me, man.
We trained them back in the States, and we had scant equipment.
Yeah.
But we try to make it work, trying to get their heads in the game as far as this new mission. The counter IED mission fell to the engineers because, you guys are supposed to be able to breach minefields. So instead of, taking a bayonet and like stick it in the ground as you're crawling along, like Pops used to do, I came up with the Husky.
Yeah, the Husky was great, and the mine rollers were good too on the MRAPs in Afghanistan. I don't think they quite. I don't know if they had those probably in later Iraq, but early Iraq they definitely didn't have them. So did you guys? So of course the insurgency starts kicking up, and did you ever have to kind of go back and reinforce the ECPs? Because like the VBID thing, the vehicle borne IEDs, right. They kind of showed up, and then people were like, oh, wow, now that's a whole new lethal weapon right there. The problem is like we had never been in this kind of war, so we learned a lot of lessons early on, and a lot of those lessons we learned early on were the problem is people died to learn those lessons. But
that's right.
What
we would do, and what the design of entry control points was such that you make them very long, so that when you do vehicle searches, you can have a standoff distance so that you've got them isolated. But you're right. I mean, you learn through horrible reality, and we would train that a lot as far as vehicle searches, the mirrors under the thing. How do you get people out of the car? Or women search women, men search men, and what do you do if you find something? And because it's a mass cal immediately.
Oh, yeah.
If you fuck it up, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If it goes bad, it goes bad. So you're doing engineer work, but it's not. I'm sure you're busy every day, but the problem is some people don't realize is work can be extremely boring too. So what are some of the things that you guys did in Iraq besides to pass the time, to have fun? Because I heard you set up a whole sporting arena over there.
What happened, the spark that happened, was that we had been in Baghdad for about a month, and the 4th of July was coming up. I had been in command of a company, and then I was the battalion maintenance officer when I got my orders to go. I ended up being an XO of the headquarters company, which was a great job because I wasn't responsible for all the bubbas. It's like I don't want to be in command, but as the XO, I was looking around in the Connex boxes that we had brought from Iowa, and I found a box that had, I called it a magical box filled with sporting equipment, and there were baseball gloves and volleyball nets and boxing gloves. And I'm like, boxing, this is great. And all of a sudden I just saw it in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to be a boxing promoter. And so we built a ring, and I was going around just saying, hey, do you want to fight? And then asking soldiers if they want to fight each other with, people have got grudges all over the place.
Oh, man.
And women would fight. And every other Saturday for a year, I'd have like 200 people there. I was like, do you know who Don King is, the boxing promoter?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes in writing, if you do pop culture, people don't. So anyway, I was like the white. I called myself, when there's a chapter called the White Don King of Baghdad. And so, watching people beat the hell out of each other in a war, we called it combatives training.
Yeah.
And it was enormously successful, but we were also able to build basketball courts, volleyball courts. I mean, we've got the sand, we've got everything that you need. Yeah, we're in the desert. We got sand. Yeah, we can build volleyball pits. That's pretty simple. And a running track. I bought, and then I learned I could be a contracting officer. So I'm like, cool, man. I can spend $2,000 a month, and I just started borrowing weights and having places for guys to work out. And I asked the battalion executive officer, Major May, I asked him one day who the battalion morale officer was. And he said, well, you are, Kenny. I'm like, what? So it took me a couple of days to let that soak in, Yeah. And after that, I could just be as stupid as I wanted to be. I mean, I was doing all kinds of, good, working with the USO and having concerts. And my goal is that at that time, I'm like, holy shit, Bob Hope is coming. Bob Hope has been to every war since World War II. He was at Korea, Vietnam. He's been everywhere. I'm like, I'm going to meet Bob Hope. That was my goal.
Yeah.
And son of a bitch, he died like right then in the summer of 2003.
Did he really?
Yeah. And I'm like, this war is going to be fucked up. And they dedicated a DFAC, a dining facility,
Mm-hmm.
They called it the Bob Hope Dining Facility. I think it was in Mosul, and it got mortared and got 3 direct hits like the next year. I think it must have killed like 20 service personnel.
Oh man,
A very rare direct hit at the Bob Hope Dining Facility. I think it was in Mosul. I'm not sure.
it might as well.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, honestly, that's pretty rare. Like, that was the crazy thing that I used to think is all these gigantic bases used to get IDF'd all the time,
All the
but
time.
like hardly anybody would ever get killed. I'm not saying nobody did, obviously, but it was just crazy how many misses they had. But it was the same in our tiny position, dude. We had like a couple football field, or not even, maybe a 2 football field by 2 football field position, but they would IDF that bitch all the time. And like sometimes it would just be like, you would be like, how do they miss every time? Like it was wild. It was wild.
They at Baghdad International Airport, they had radar that can detect calibers of like 50 cal and above. So they knew where the poo was.
Yeah, yeah, we did too.
The,
Yeah.
the point of origin. So you knew what the poo was. So if they're in someone's backyard, right? And they set up a mortar tube and they just fired that son of a bitch and just ran. Well, you wouldn't catch them, but we could get there and ask the owner of the backyard. It's like, hey, you're going to Abu Ghraib tonight, and we don't know. You better tell us who the hell was in your backyard, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is so like if we had an air asset would be the most awesome thing. So if we had an air asset in the air at the time, you could just be like, "Hey, go look at this grid," and it's like as soon as you do it. But like, dude, we never called them. I think we might have called them like one time. They're super fast. I mean, you're right. They just shoot and haul ass, and they're like, "All right, we're out." I think that was one of the early lessons learned by those guys is don't shoot and then sit around because if you do, you're gonna get schwacked. But
Didn't you have a story? Maybe it was one of your guests where a mortar landed in your compound and the fins are sticking up out of the ground, and people are just like mulling around, just like looking at it.
Yeah, I don't remember. What episode that was. Yeah, he said they were all standing in the middle of a circle smoking cigarettes, and a mortar that was a dud landed all in between them in the middle of the smoke pit, and they were just like, "Holy shit!" Like nobody moved because they were all just like, "Well,
I want to have my smoke." Yeah, I saw the same thing too. I mean, yeah,
That's insane.
a mortar landed, and I slept so well in Iraq, I didn't hear the mortar at all. But in the morning, they saw all this caution tape up around the shitters. So we had a bank of 10 shitters that was real close to my tent, and they had a caution taped off. And I'm like, "What happens?" Well, a mortar, landed over there. And I go over there and it's like there's a battalion commander and a couple of majors that are smoking cigars, showing how tough they are. It's like, you guys are idiots. Thank
Yeah.
God I didn't blow up the shitters. There would have been blue. There would have been blue shit everywhere.
Could you imagine being in the shitter and that being how you get killed?
Yeah.
You're just sitting on the shitter and it's just direct hit.
That's probably how I would have gone down, but it didn't happen.
Yeah, you're still here with us. It didn't happen. Yeah. Tell me some other things that happened in Iraq on your first time around. Before you guys left, because you spent a year there, so that's a long time, dude. Most combat deployments are 7 to 9 months, so a year is a good span to be in a foreign country like that.
Yeah, we almost got extended 4 months at the end of it in the spring of 04. How long is a combat deployment for in the Marine Corps? You said
7 months.
7 months, really?
Yeah, that's it.
They were trying to figure out what the tempo was going to be, and as far as rotating units in and out over the span of 10 years, they broke the Army Reserve and the Guard and whatnot. But the best story that I have is one day I was called into the head shed, and the operations officer, who probably knew I would do anything, told me that there was an up-armored bulldozer in the railroad yard in Baghdad. And what I thought about going and getting it, right? So I asked a stupid question. I said, "Well, whose is it?" Right? And he said, this is the line. This is the best joke of the war. He said, "Well, it says Caterpillar on the side of it, so it's America's. Go get it." I'm like, "Yeah, right on, man. Okay, that's fine.
Let's do it.
I don't care." And this thing was a D9 high track, up armored. The Israeli army calls it the teddy bear.
Mm.
And so um, when the Israelis started their Gaza campaign, I was looking at the news. You'll see the teddy bears in action. I mean, it's a massive bulldozer. It can tear down buildings and go through walls and all different kinds of stuff. But at any rate, we trying to find this thing was like trying to find a sore toe. I was just sticking out there, and what I learned, Alex, very early on is that when it's 120 degrees outside and you've got guns, nobody cares what you're doing.
Yeah.
Nobody cares what you're doing whatsoever. And the mechanics were able to get the thing going. I don't know whose it was. Who cares? And
Yeah.
got it back to our maintenance facility. We hung about $30,000 worth of parts on it, and then we gave it to the Marine Corps because the Marine Corps has had one, right? And they were using them to assault positions. And so you have that ballistic glass around the turret. So now the operator is safe. And so I could just see them, assaulting a position at dark early, chugga, 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 where this thing would just, and of course, all the smart insurgents would run away.
Yeah.
But it would just go through anything. So I just have a great affinity for the Marine Corps. A lot of it I don't understand, though.
Yeah, but hey, that's the dude. Like, that's super cool that you guys gave that to the Marine Corps. Because the thing about it is that those are useful in the fact that, especially in heavily IED terrain, when you're like attacking buildings or you're clearing cities or something, the IEDs are always going to be in the path of least resistance. So if you use that bulldozer to assault through a wall or a compound wall or something like that, that basically saves your men from going into an entry point where they have to worry about IED. So that's super cool. And I want to say that there were some stories about a bulldozer being used. I've seen them. If I see one that's super cool, I'll send it to you, because it might have been the one you gave to us.
That's interesting. The name of the chapter where I describe it is called "Why I Stole a Bulldozer," and I have to put in allegedly. Okay, I'm doing the finger quotes right now. Allegedly, because I would hope that the Marine Corps would just deny all knowledge of this whatsoever. I mean, if it ever came to it, but it was 20 years ago. I'm just messing around. But have you ever seen the movie Kelly's Heroes with Clint Eastwood?
No, I can't. I'm not a Clint. I'm not. I haven't seen that.
It's a World War II flick where they're racing to find a hoard of Nazi gold.
Yeah,
and so they just like I said, the rules change when you go overseas. How was the I mean, in the Army we say that there isn't any stealing in the Army. There's only been one theft, and since that time, everybody's just trying to get their shit back.
Yeah.
how did that work in the Marine Corps?
Well, I'll put it to you this way: that statement is exactly the same, and it hasn't changed in all those years. No, yeah, that's how it is, man. Like, so if we call it tactical acquisitions.
Sure.
But like, our thing is, if we need something and nobody claims it and it doesn't have an owner, we're gonna get it. Like, and I mean, like, that's like, we stole an MRAP in Afghanistan, and we took it apart, and when battalion come back to get it, it was literally just a frame of what it used to be, and they were super pissed, and we were like, hey, bitches, bring us some parts and we won't take your shit apart.
Yeah, you mentioned people disassembling AK-47s and trying to send them home.
Yeah.
That absolutely happened. Right before we left, a couple of morons disassembled AK-47s. They wrapped them in plastic and they put them in a flag stand that they poured concrete around. Someone got nervous right before they deployed home and went to the IG or what have you, and yeah, they got busted. But my point is that if you appropriate something or acquire something for the purpose of your mission, typically the chain of command's got to be like, nah, okay,
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
fix it. But if you're trying to make money,
Oh, dude.
that's an entirely different thing. I mean, then they will, hang your ass from a flagpole.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw guys just get ruined, just get absolutely ruined. And for how much does an AK-47 cost? I mean, it's a cheap ass weapon. There's billions of them all over the planet. Why would you
I
just want
think
to steal one?
I think it just comes down to war trophies. I think that's what it does. And but yeah, I think it had to have been in Afghanistan. It wasn't in Iraq, where you left Afghanistan, where they searched you. They had this giant wall back there, like the exit point of the country. And dude, they had like swords and shit up there. They had like stuff that you're like, where did the guy get that? Like, I assumed that they
Oh,
took it out of like Taliban houses that they searched. Man, they had all kinds of crazy stuff. So it just goes to show that, like, in any war now, but I did hear that, like, the guys on the initial invasion, they would like find, like, you're talking about an AK, but like they found like crazy stuff, like in the palace, they found like some gold trinkets and stuff, that they were trying to swipe. So of course, any Marine, I mean, look, you pay a PFC or what's the next rank up in the Army after PFC?
corporal or specialist.
Corporal, yeah, corporal or special. Dude, them dudes are making like $400 a month, and you expect that dude to not pick up a 24 karat gold like candlestick and be like, yeah, I'm taking this bitch back with me. This is my retirement. Yeah,
If you don't tell anybody.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the
Okay.
thing. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, if it's called scoundrels in Iraq for a reason. It's like if your kid came home and he was upset because he got in trouble because there was a fight, and you ask your son, what happened, and there was the bully, Kenny the bully was just too much, and I had to, punch him in the nose, and so you ask your child, do you think you got in trouble because you punched Kenny in the nose? No, you didn't. No, you got in trouble because
yeah,
someone saw you do it.
that's right. Yeah,
Okay.
like, I
And
mean,
maybe I shouldn't, my parenting advice is poor, but you get what I'm saying.
oh yeah. I mean, but the problem too is like it's the culture. It's the culture of the military. So like, and I'm not saying about the like stealing random shit, but like as far as like tactical acquisitions, like I remember, so there was a dude who stole a piece of gear of mine when I was a young PFC. And so my team leader, I went to my team leader, I was like, hey, so and so stole this piece of gear from me. And he was like, get it done. Because we had like a gear inspection the next day, and he was like, get it done. And I was like, what do you mean get it done? He's like, you better figure it out. And so there's this whole mentality in the Marine Corps where it's like somebody's in charge and they tell that other guy, like, I don't care how you do it. It just better get done. Like, you know what I mean? And then so for the lower enlisted ranks, especially, sometimes they're just like, well, fuck it. He said get it done. And if you don't get caught, then it's just like, okay, well, the mission was complete and we didn't get caught and nobody got hurt. And so sometimes that becomes the norm. And like, yeah, I did get caught stealing my gear back from that kid, and then it got blamed, and I never did. I never did actually. As a matter of fact, I still haven't talked to my team leader about that to this day. Like, I still need to go back and be like, do you believe me that he stole my shit? Because that dude really did steal my shit. I'm putting that out there on this podcast. So I don't remember what that guy's name was, but if you're listening, asshole, you did steal my shit. So you do this deployment in Iraq, you get back, you're training guys, that you train guys for the next, so you don't go back to Iraq until 2000 and what, 9? 10.
2010. So that was the retrograde movement.
Yeah.
It was time to get out of Dodge. President Obama was like, that's it, we're done.
Yeah.
And I understood the mentality, but he was begged to keep 10,000 troopers behind.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had to shut down our construction projects all over the country. And we did a lot of building projects in support of the government. So we built our crown jewel was, at least in my office, was a 7-story air traffic control tower in Tikrit, Saddam
Oh
Hussein's
wow.
hometown. But we would build government offices and a lot of schools and just all kinds of infrastructure projects. We destroyed the road network in Iraq. You know,
Oh yeah.
when you're driving treads over pavement, it just busts everything up all to hell. So figuring out how to get out of there um, was a challenge because there is, I think, one of your most recent podcasts, you guys were talking about how difficult it is to, you know, inventory serial number, and even then, there's going to be tons of stuff left behind,
Oh yeah.
and you just know that whatever's left behind is going to get trashed, you know, stolen, what have you. We are
Yeah.
talking about Muslim countries, and stealing from a Christian is like,
Yeah.
what's a big deal?
They're not gonna give it to us.
Yeah,
Once
right.
we leave.
So from these experiences, I would have these strange vignettes in my head, little missions like the boxing matches or appropriating an up armored bulldozer, and I wrote down my vignettes, and I was able to weave it into a novel.
Yeah.
And as I was writing it, my mother asked, "Well, who's your audience?" And like a fool, I said, "The whole wide world." Like, what was that? Oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so what happened was a counterinsurgency. I have a chapter called Big Daddy, David Petraeus,
Yeah.
and he came in 2006, 2007, and he helped rewrite the counterinsurgency manual from the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps wrote a counterinsurgency manual in the 1930s based upon the Marine Corps invading one of the Central American countries,
Yeah. I don't remember which one.
Nicaragua or Honduras or Guatemala or
Yeah.
Panama. Or the Marines were busy,
So yeah.
but he rewrote that. But how do you explain that to, as I call her, Karen from Kansas?
Yeah.
Never spent any time in the military whatsoever. So, like, we built a lot of schools. Well, that's part of the counterinsurgency campaign because you're showing the host government can actually protect you,
Right.
provide services, pick up the
Yeah.
trash, make sure the sewer system sort of works. And that's what we did. That's what the U.S. forces were doing for years.
Yeah.
And blowing up bad guys who were stupid enough to actually attack us.
Right. I mean, honestly though, like it's the funny thing is it if you look at the Afghan papers, you'll see that like, Bush and Obama they're all this whole time, they're like, we're not nation building. Like, we're not nation building. We're not nation building. But like, you were probably highly involved in infrastructure projects. So, like, we're at least partially nation building. But the thing is you have to give the population a chance, especially in Iraq, where Iraq had a chance. Afghanistan doesn't have a chance because its culture is not conducive to democracy. It's just the way it is. Like, I've been there. It's just not. Just trust me on that. But like, Iraq was different. Like, Iraq can be like a Gulf state. It can be a Bahrain. It can be a Kuwait. It could be a Saudi Arabia. It's a little bit different in different ways. But my thing is like, I think Iraq had a fighting chance. So when you said y'all were out there building schools, like, that's important. Like, freedom of kids to get education and things like that. So like, when on your last one there, so like you said in your book, you kind of, you were in the first and last inning. So you went on the initial invasion, and then now you're back on the giant working party breaking the whole thing down.
Exactly.
That's what I like to call those later Iraq deployments. So I mean, you're breaking all this stuff down. I mean, I'm assuming there's still a threat here, though. I mean, it's not the safest work.
Being on the roads was where the threat level was because of all the IEDs. But by the time 2009, 2010, after Big Daddy said, okay, we're going to attack the network. We're going to find out who these people, we don't want to kill the guy who actually emplaced the bomb.
Yeah.
And most IEDs and their components came out of Iran.
Mm.
And I understand why the Iranians were doing it, is because, well, shit, the United States had invaded the countries to their east and west.
Right.
So they probably were a little bit freaked out. And they switched to attacking the new formations within the Iraqi army.
Yeah.
They would not attack U.S. forces because they knew that that was like the best way that they could get themselves killed.
Yeah. 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 Now, how do you think that as we pull out of there, how do you think that Iraq held up on its own 2 feet? I mean, what do we do? 10, 15? What did we do there? 10 years? 10 years in Iraq. So it's like, how do you think that Iraq went as far as the government standing on its own 2 feet after we left? Some people think we lost, some people think we won. Where's your over under on that?
It's going to be a mixed bag.
Mm-hmm.
The cover to my book is the woman with the purple finger.
Mm-hmm.
And what that refers to is the election of 2005. And so when I talk about the Sunni Shia schism, the demographics of Iraq become important. The Kurds lived in the north. There's about 8 million Kurds.
Yeah.
Kurds are not Arabs. They're not Turks. They're not Persians. They're not Armenians. They're just Kurds. They've been there forever. They've been conquered by everybody. They don't have their own country, which is weird, but they're all over. They're spread out.
Yeah.
And then you have the Arabs, and then 1/3 of the Arabs are Sunni, and 2/3 are Shia. So the reason why I bring that up is because the Iran-Iraq war in the 80s, it was like 2 million people were killed in that war between Sunnis and Shias, right? And so the Shia majority, who was oppressed by Saddam Hussein, they were like cannon fodder on the front lines. After the smoke cleared in 2005, people voted per their religion. So Kurds voted for Kurds, and the Sunnis voted for Sunnis, which were the former oppressors, if you would. But there was a natural way for them to align the majority with Iran because of religious affiliation. But as it's happened, Iraq it's doing okay.
Yeah.
The Ivy League of university of education happened in Baghdad. So as far as people being educated, I mean, they created the fucking alphabet. They created, numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. Poetry and engineering and the sciences. I mean, these people are hyper smart. I can't imagine what it would have been like in Afghanistan, where like you have a guy who's like never walked out of his valley and never will.
Yeah. It was a whole different world, man. Like the one thing that I like to remind people of is that you need to pick up a history book, because a lot of people are like, oh, people in the Middle East are just dumb. And I'm like, dude, the Middle East used to be the cradle of society or of mankind. Yeah. Like the thing is there was a lot of really good stuff that happened there. It just, things happen, wars happen, people invade this and that, and then people come to power that shouldn't be in power or that don't empower the people. And but like Afghanistan was different. Afghanistan is tribal. It's the lack of education because the way that the culture is, and until you change the culture, you can't change the education, and you can't change the baseline society of the country. And just like in Iraq, where you say the Sunni and Shia schism, you have there, you also have that in Afghanistan. You have your not Turks. I'm going to kill it. I'm going to forget. Anyway, the Pashtuns, and then you have other tribes. Those will never work together, because every time they try to do elections, they're like, the Pashtuns are like, we don't want to be run by these guys. And so that country is just never going to work. And like you said, yeah, there's people that have never traveled outside their village. They've never seen Americans. Some people had never seen military dudes in Afghanistan since the Russians were there in the 80s. That's insane. Like the whole war, like this was like the end of the war in Afghanistan. And they were like, oh, yeah, we didn't know you guys were here. And I mean, that's insane, dude.
Where, where,
That's,
where were you when Kandahar was just abandoned in the middle of the night? I remember where I was. I was working as a carpenter, and I was having my lunch. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. They didn't even tell them that they were leaving, and they just like handed over the whole fucking airbase. It's like someone was just too many stupid pills. I don't understand it.
I mean, to me, the whole pullout of Afghanistan was a blunder. So, like, the way we left Iraq, I felt like was some people thought it was shitty, but like in my opinion, we left Iraq in a pretty decent way. We put everything on trucks. We drove out of the country. We flew it out of Kuwait, didn't we? Is that
Yeah,
how it
yeah,
went down?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So like my thing is we did the mission. We completed the mission. I think we stayed too long, but whatever. Opinions are opinions. But anyway, and we left. But to pull back all your forces to an airport that has no defensible position and then basically have the entire country coming at you, you know what I'm saying? You had all those protests. You have people at the gates trying to give people. You didn't get all of your assets out. I mean, it was a blunder. It was a military blunder, and a lot of people like to blame the administration. And I'm like, look, you can blame the administration if you want, but my thing is, I blame the military people because it's like the administration didn't make that plan. The military generals did. And the generals and whoever was in charge of that, First Mardiv or whoever, that was garbage. It was straight garbage. And I'll never forget it because it felt like a slap in the face because then it was like 10 days later and boom, the Taliban was like, oh, yeah, we're good. We control this country. And I'm like, God, it sucks.
I knew we had to get out of there because it had been 20 years, and I was just waiting for the news story of a Marine deploying to Afghanistan that was born after 9/11.
Yeah.
Was it 18, 20 years?
Yeah.
And it's like, we got to get the hell out of here. I mean, I understood that part. I think that Iraq was left in fairly good shape. They have a functioning democracy. We did a lot of nation building. I mean, you have the State Department coming over with provisional reconstruction teams. You've got the Treasury Department sending teams, helping them with their banking system. You had, Navy veterinarians helping them out with vaccinating their livestock. Tons of nation building.
Yeah.
And if we fixed a lot of shit that we broke, but their culture, you're not going to do nothing about as far as their culture is concerned. I mean, they're not going to change their ways. It's kind of like when they finally hung Saddam Hussein. I don't know if you ever saw the video.
Oh yeah.
Okay. He was on trial for like 2 years or whatever it was. And when they finally decided to hang him, okay, I don't want to dig on my Arab brethren, but it was chaos. Okay.
Yeah.
They went to a barn. It was like, hey, what do you want to do this morning? Let's hang Saddam. No planning. Let's just get like 100 really angry people, and we're just going to string them up. And there was a lot of screaming, and a lot of yelling going on. And they stretched his neck in a barn, and it was a spectacle, right? Well, that's the Arab way of doing things. They're not going to, if it was America, if he was in American hands, we would have like rented out Texas Stadium and have done it like on pay-per-view on the 50-yard, because that's what America does. We're going to make some money off of this, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, to be honest, too, you're right, man. It's like you do this whole official trial, like, and the trial was official. Like, if you watch the videos of it, like, it was legit. There was like a dude up there, a judge or whatever, and then it just, like you said, it just turns into like, all right, let's drag him down the back alleyway, bro. Like, pull him out of the bar. Like, I mean, it's insane. I mean, yeah. So it's funny because I went back to. Are you familiar with the name of a base called Jabber in Kuwait? It's an air base. You might not be. It's called El Jabber. It's somewhere around the Kuwait airport, but it's south of it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something's ringing a bell. I'm not.
But yeah, it's funny because like we thought Iraq was over. So it's my last deployment in 20. I think it was 14. I think it was 2014. So I go to El Jabber as a Marine doing aviation stuff. We set that runway up. It hasn't been used since the Gulf War. We built it from the ground back up. Air Force come out there, and then we launched airstrikes against ISIS out of that. And then we were hopping special operations from Jabber back to Iraq to then fight in Syria against ISIS. Yeah, but I thought it was funny because I was just like, I remember thinking in 2014, like, is Iraq ever going to go away? I'm like, we're going back again. Like, so what did you think about the ISIS rise after, because I mean, we leave, we get out of there, everything's cool. And then all of a sudden this thing kicks off. I mean, I assume you're like, well, here we go. Round 2. Let's do this.
Political realities. Well, let me say this. Before ISIS was Al Qaeda in Iraq. That's what we called it. And Al Qaeda hated Saddam Hussein. We knew that the invasion of Iraq after 9/11 was a little bit odd because Saddam Hussein didn't have anything to do with 9/11. I mean, Al Qaeda hated him as much as anybody else, but there was Al Qaeda in Iraq, and that was defeated. And so ISIS is the Sunni attempt to have a huge caliphate type of thing. And so you're playing whack-a-mole because you can't extinguish an idea.
Yeah.
So it's gonna pop back up. So when the military begged President Obama to keep 10,000 troopers in country just to keep a lid on things, that would have been that might have been a good decision, but how much do we have to give before they're satisfied?
I mean, to be honest, it's like, at what point do you call it? It is what it is. I mean, we can't stay there forever. I mean, we already got troops on the DMZ in Korea, so it's like, still,
Yeah.
So I mean, at some point you just got to say, look, this is the best we can do, and we did it. I mean, now whether whether people say that it was the right decision in the first place is, up in the air. But, because it's funny, 9/11 was Afghanistan. Like you said, Iraq was not.
When ISIS attacked Mosul in, I think 2014, 2015, I think that's what the year was. 3,000 dedicated fighters, I described this in the book a little bit, defeated a force of 30,000, both Iraqi army and police in the city of Mosul. Mosul was a pretty hideous place, but they ran away. They assassinated politicians. They bombed police stations, and their national army was like, well, this is a Sunni city, and I'm from down south, and I'm a Shia, so I was really only here for the paycheck. I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the militias were formed, the Kurds, God bless the Kurds.
Yeah.
They love us, and they fight like hell. They train their women to be fighters, right?
Yeah.
They're not going to let some Arab man like climb all over them. No, that's not.
Kurds are legit.
Oh, I gotta love the Kurds. So we had tried to train them along an American model. We were sending their NCOs to the Sergeant Major's Academy at Fort Hood. We were trying to do that, but when it came down to it, it's so sectarian. It's like, oh, I'm a Catholic and this is a Lutheran town. I'm going home.
Right.
Or whatever, times a million. So it bubbled back up, and they were not able to tamp it back down. I mean, it took them a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they retook Fallujah.
Yeah.
And it took the Iraqi army like a year and a half to get them out of there. It's like, why is it taking so long?
I talked about this with other guests. We talked about like the Iraqi army with a couple guys. We talked about the Afghan National Army. There's just something different about the U.S. military. There's something we believe it's a cult, man. It's a cult. We believe it. Like we believe this lie, or I mean, I'm not going to call it a lie because it's not essentially, but we believe this, like anything we can do it. It's that type of attitude that makes us so good, and it makes it. But yeah, I mean, we did a ton of airstrikes in Syria. I have a A-10 shell that was given to me by the Air Force that was fired over Syria, and pretty cool. But yeah, dude, we did a ton of combat operations because there were planes launching every day, all day out of Kuwait when we built that base.
Let me ask you this, Alex. Your Marine Corps officers, right? They made it a point, didn't they, to like be with the troops, do the PT. People saw them what they were doing. If it was raining out or it was shitty out, and the troops are out there, the senior leaders have to show up, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, what I saw from Iraqi officers, senior guys, is that it was like this isn't a part-time job. You're in command of this base.
yeah,
20 hours a week ain't gonna cut it, pal. It's
yeah.
like, are you really just here for the paycheck? And I think a hell of a lot of them were.
I think so too. And I mean, really and honestly, yeah, I mean, you got a great point. I mean, that's really what it was. They didn't buy into the Iraq as like it wasn't patriotic to them. I met a few patriotic dudes over the years in Afghanistan. Like there was a couple, but there wasn't a lot. Like you said, for the majority, 80+%, probably just there for a paycheck. I mean, so you get back from so you guys get back from Iraq the second time. How much longer do you stay in the service after this?
I stayed in the service another 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Like I volunteered to go for deployment with the Corps of Engineers to Afghanistan, but the billet went away, the downsizing and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I ended up having to go back into the reserves. And I don't know what your opinion is of the Marine Corps Reserve, but it is soup sandwich, man, because
yeah,
we have all the requirements of the active duty component and 1/10 of the time to do it. And so it just, you become really fast at what you do, which is why when we deployed in the Army Reserve, they're like, how in the hell can you build that so fast? It's like, well,
yeah,
that's how everything we would do is quick.
It's a weekend.
But other ways it was kind of half-ass. So I spent the next 6 years, and I became in the Army Reserve, basically, and I got promoted. I needed to keep my grade for a couple of years to retire as it, and I became a staff puke. I became I was in a division headquarters and tried to get their their internal training program up to snuff. And yeah, I was a staff puke.
Yeah.
Now flash in the trash.
When you get back from Iraq the second time, well, maybe even the first time, are you like, is there any, I know you said you wanted to take the D off post-traumatic stress disorder, but which I'm not in disagreement with. But are you having any post-traumatic stress after the first or second deployment, or is it like when you leave the Army completely? Because for a lot of guys, you don't really see a ton of the symptoms. You may see some, especially after come back from Afghanistan. I know I had some, but like you really don't see them manifest completely until like you leave the boys, you leave the organization as a whole, and then you're by yourself. How was that for you?
It was and I, looking back in retrospect, I wish I had touched upon this more in my novel, Scoundrels in Iraq. It simply wasn't my experience. I had been in the service for 17 years when 9/11 happened. I was in my 30s in my first deployment, and so I've got a wife, I've got a kid, and with my spiritual development type of thing, you're already resilient because when you're in your 30s, you've already avoided death a couple times.
Yeah.
right? And so, my first deployment, I mean, when our medical guy Doc Baker would go and get the pills for people, it was sleep aids, antidepressants. Just one out of every three people was on some sort of a happy pill,
Wow.
right? And it was mostly the young kids. It was also
Yeah.
the guys in their 20s and whatnot. Me, I've been getting, you know, my ex-wife, beautiful woman that she was. Like I said, I was in Iraq one time. I was in the motor pool. I'm like, this is so nice. It's so quiet. It's 110 degrees outside, but no one's yelling at me.
Yeah.
So my trauma came from that. And after I got back, I was still in the military. And yeah, divorce is a gift that we give ourselves.
So I'm assuming that was the only divorce you had.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting married in early summer.
Oh, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a party in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. I mean, it's funny, man. Like it it seems like that the family, the stress of just having a family in the military is hard. It's really hard, especially around deployments and stuff like that. I think that's something that's really underrated. A lot of people don't give the wives or give the family credit because, when you go away for that long, you learn to live how you want to live. They learn to live how they want to live. And then when you come back, you're each trying to screw each other's schedule up. And it's hard. Like, I mean, it's hard to come back and live together. I mean, I was married my 2 deployments out of my 3. And, I didn't have any kids. I didn't have any kids till I got out. But, so for me, it was just me and her. But, still, I mean, the thing is you have fights and arguments because you're just like, no, this is how I was. And I don't want to be like that. When did you write the books? Did you write the books after you retired or during your time?
I finished writing Scoundrels in Iraq before I retired. Yeah, I mean, I was still in the editing phase.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. I think the families deploy as well because they don't know what's going on. And so when you flip on CNN and you're seeing a Humvee getting blown up by an IED, that spouse is going to think, oh my goodness,
Yeah.
Kenny and Alex were in that thing. I mean, and they're going to freak out. Whereas you're just on your rack,
Yeah.
playing Xbox or whatever that is, or or crashed. So families do deploy with, and then it changes you. You're going to
Yeah.
be changed, and people have to move on without you. It's like you leave, you go to the airport and you deploy. You take a mental snapshot. Okay, my kids are. This is what they're doing. This is what my wife is doing. These are what my friends and my folks. And you expect that snapshot is who they're going to be when you come back. And people don't work like that.
Yeah.
They have to move on. It's like, well, I always used to cut the grass. Well, you weren't here to cut the grass.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I mean, that's a really good point. Yeah, like life doesn't stand still. Like you're gone. Time's moving on. It feels like it stands still when we leave sometimes because we're like, oh, yep, the airport looks like this. And when you get back, you're like, oh, look, it looks the same. Like, except maybe they did a little construction in Terminal 5,
but boy, man, coming home is just like, oh, this is like, I used to like, you take off your boots and walk in the grass.
Yeah.
It's like, there's actually green things around.
Green. Yeah. Yeah.
There's actually plants and trees everywhere, Land of beer and pizza. America's great.
It is. I mean, I have never. You take a lot of things for granted, and that's the good thing about the military is we take a lot of things for granted, and then we go to overseas, and then you come back, and you're just like, oh man, like that was so great. Like I love trees and grass and shit, especially if you went to the Helmand or Iraq where everything is like the same for 3 shades of the same color, all tan or some version of tan. But yeah, that's wild, man.
In your deployments, what kind of work were you guys doing?
We did so like for us, we did basically security. So they're not security. We did combat operations, so we would pick a spot in the Helmand, and then especially if a spot that had trouble. So in 2010, I want to say 2010, 2011, 3-5 went to Sangin, which is down a huge wadi in Afghanistan. And that Sangin, they did some massive combat operations there, lost a lot of guys. It was some tough fighting. Well, when they did that, they pushed those insurgents up the wadi. So then when 2-4 deployed, we deployed above where Sangin was, where those insurgents got pushed to, and then we basically did combat operations to secure that sector and push those guys out of there. So I mean, that's pretty much what we did, just moving, clearing areas, and then that kind of stuff. So for us, yeah, I mean, it was just it's a different experience, because it's like when I went to the wing and I was kind of, doing what kind of like what you did, where you're on a bigger base, you're not really doing combat operations every day. There's still risk involved there. There's still stuff that can kill you, but it was a completely different experience, because you're talking about living out of trucks and small bases and eating MREs every day. You don't have a DFAC, so it's a whole different experience, and that's why you get this thing where you have vets that hate other vets because they're like, "Well, you didn't do what I did, and because you didn't do what I did, you're a piece of shit," and that's childish behavior, man. Like we couldn't do what we did if it wasn't for guys like you that did what you did, because the logistics just don't work like that, So it was just a whole different experience. But
well, that's why I have a ton of respect for the Marine Corps and stuff like that. One thing I don't understand is you were talking about some of your company level officers and stuff like that.
yeah,
Is there just like all this just constant hua screaming and yelling? Because I couldn't take that.
no, it's not. It's not like super screaming and yelling all the time. No, that's the Marine Corps gets a rap for that. And yes, we are like, we're very, so especially like if you're a new guy and before you deploy, yes, it's very, what's the word for it? Strict. Like once you deploy, you don't get on a first name basis, but you get a more relaxed posture, because now these guys are doing the job. So it's not like that. But you may have heard some stories about some officers that we didn't particular get to get along with, and it wasn't common. I'll put it to you that way. There were some spites between guys and officers, and but for the most part, no, they were super cool. There's that story with Shane where he was talking shit about one of his lieutenants, and the lieutenant called him. I think that was just, that wasn't the norm. Lieutenant Bennett was a great guy, but again, that's one of those things where good order and discipline is something that the Marine Corps will maintain, whether in a combat environment or not. And a lot of people might think that's dumb, or they might think that that's overkill. The problem is like I tell people, in the infantry especially, when an officer or an NCO tells somebody to do something, you better do it. And the reason you better do it is because there might be an IED in front of you. So we maintain that good order and discipline even in country. And sometimes, like I said, people don't like that, but that's just that's how it is, man. And it's a culture,
That level of discipline is necessary when you're doing things that are inherently dangerous.
Yeah.
Because, there could be a bigger picture as to why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And so, but as far as good order and discipline is concerned, I may have been on the other side of that line. so to speak. I didn't particularly care for, some of that stuff. I remember getting yelled at by my battalion commander. I was walking to the showers and I had flip-flops on, and they had just come up with a rule that said that you had to wear shoes and socks in order to go to the showers. And I ran across the sergeant major and the battalion commander, and I'm a 03, and he's, starts reading me the riot act because I was wearing flip-flops. It's like, I'm pretty sure I'm in Iraq. At what point are you going to stop giving a shit about really stupid things? But that's me, I mean,
I had dudes that I know that were on the big bases, and then there were guys that were like out where we were. And so the thing is the good order and discipline thing, it laxed a lot like where we were at, because it was like you can't maintain that and run, 6 on, 6 off, and 6 on react for 7 months straight. Like you just can't do it. And so like the bigger bases, the problem was people had too much free time, too much sleep, and there was too much Army brass in the same spot. And I mean, you were an officer, but obviously you kind of had the mentality like kind of like we had, because you were enlisted. So you understand that, like, man, that kind of bullshit in wartime is just not, it's not conducive. But the problem is the bigger bases were all political. Like, I mean, obviously you got lit up for having shower shoes on. I mean, we walked with flip flops to the shower every day. Like, so.
Yeah. For me, it was like, the troops needed at that time, they needed weights. They
Yeah.
needed to, pump some iron for stress relief. And I saw that, and I said, oh, okay, I can actually buy weights off the economy.
Yeah.
We had an asphalt, and pavements and concrete section. And so we had these ancient, we could do chip and seal operations where basically we could make a running track. So we made a running track that was about 3/4 of a mile long, about 6 feet wide, all the way around the interior perimeter of our life support area. And the rabbits were on that track the second that, the asphalt was barely cool, And so for me, it was taking care of soldiers.
Yeah.
And things like that, and having fun as much as I possibly could, and not getting caught is is rather important. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing, is like troop welfare is a real thing. And the problem is too many people get up in leadership positions in the military and they don't remember where they came from. And that was a great thing. That's what I've always respected about Mustangs, guys who were enlisted, who went to officer, because they remember what it was like. And sometimes, if you got some Ivy League officer coming out of an Ivy League school, they don't get it, man. Like they just don't understand like but they don't understand where people truly start at. And that troop welfare does wonders, especially in a combat environment where, like you said, you got stress. You need dudes who need stress relief, man. They're going outside the wire. They're doing crazy stuff all the time. And it's like, hey, man, get some weights out here and let them dudes pump some iron, because that's what they need. And I think that's important, man. I really think you did a great job doing that. I mean, you're with your boxing thing that's in your first book. So if I haven't made it clear yet, and now we've mentioned it a couple of times, you wrote 2 books. So you wrote the first book, Scoundrels in Iraq. You wrote it in a novel form.
Yes, and I also have I also narrated the audio book.
Okay. So you got the audio book.
Yeah.
And then you wrote a second book.
My second book is called Pinup Dolls and Classic Cars, a COVID love story. And I don't know if you like going to car shows, but if you go to a car show, you may see pinup dolls.
Yeah.
It's actually a thing where women will adopt. Well, they get all dolled up, and they raise money for charity, and they compete. And I went to a car show and I saw this, and I'm like, I have a whole cast of characters for a whole other novel right here.
Yeah.
I wrote 2/3 of the book, and then COVID happened. And so COVID put a big twist in the novel, because, and so I describe what it was like in the early months of 2020, when things were shut down. People would shut down car shows. It's like, it's outside.
Yeah.
And it was like a mountain of stupid. So I am like, I climbed a mountain of stupid and started describing some of the things that happened at that time. And I was out in Seattle land. I was in the Pacific Northwest. And they shut down. We were the only country in the world that shut down our schools.
Yeah.
And oh, man, my fiance, her daughter was a junior in high school. Basically, she just missed a year of school.
Right. That's insane. So you wrote that book. And so I'm assuming, I'm not a huge fan of classic cars. I do have a buddy that has a classic car. My father-in-law's got a nice 69 God, I'm gonna butcher this. I don't remember what it is. Anyway, it's 69 something, but it's beautiful. But that just goes to show that I'm not huge in them. So is this something you've always been interested in? Classic cars? Is that been a thing of yours for a long time, or you just recently get into it?
I'm not a gearhead.
Oh,
All my tools are in standard. I'm a carpenter by trade.
yeah.
But as far as writing is concerned, um, it's a craft, and I'm still developing it.
Yeah.
When I look at the stuff that I wrote, it was just like, was I drunk when I wrote that? That's no good. Get rid of that and type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was all of a sudden I was writing a love story, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm writing a love what? And it, the book wasn't about COVID,
Yeah.
but in 2010, were you married with children?
No.
2000,
No.
2020.
2020. Yes, I was actually. Yeah. Yeah. My second daughter had just been born, and we left the hospital like right before they cracked down on like all the, like you can't have guests in here or whatever. Yeah. So pretty much like, yeah, I remember that. But see, like where I lived in Georgia, excuse me, um, we didn't care, dude. Like we didn't care down here. It was no big deal. Like there were a lot of people that masked up, and they shut some things down. But like for the farm, man, people still ate at Chick-fil-A, and so you still needed tons of chicken. So we were rocking and rolling. Like but there's nobody here. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it didn't affect my life unless I went somewhere. So but I almost took a job in Seattle. When I left the military,
Oh,
I had a potential to work for Blue Origin, the rocket company, and I didn't make the final interview. But anyway, as
count
an
your
aside,
blessings.
what's that?
Count your blessings.
Oh, I know, because after all that went down, I remember me and my wife looking at each other and going, "Man, I'm so glad we don't live in Washington State right now."
Oh, it was crazy. They just, I mean, shutting down churches for those politicians was like the high point of their career.
Yeah,
And they were shutting down restaurants, and they would get into, I mean, you have a restaurant that stays open. It's like, okay, here's you've ignored our warnings. Every day you stay open is a $10,000 fine.
man,
And it was like everywhere you go, it was like, I'm wearing flip flops to the shower. It's
right,
cool. What do you mean I can't wear flip flops to the shower?
exactly,
So you got to wear your mask when you enter a restaurant until you sit down, and then you take off the mask, and now there's like a bubble around you. It was like stupid on top of stupid on top of stupid. And the weird thing is, Alex, is that as I'm promoting my book, not a lot of people are talking about it.
yeah,
And so what I found was that you know that you're living in tyranny when what they're forcing you to do is hypocritical. It doesn't make any sense, right? It's um what's the word I want to look for? It's random. In other
yeah.
words, if it's absurd and you're doing it, like I have to have a mask to go into the restaurant, but once I'm eating, it's like if they try to close down the liquor stores and the pot shops, right? People are going to be rioting instantly. I mean,
Oh yeah,
so they
yeah.
can't do that, right? But they can shut down the churches.
Or the beach.
And it's like, okay, so now someone figured out that a sneeze can go 6 feet. So now we have to be, just random bullshit,
Yeah.
And so just trying to see. I mean, a lot of people lost their jobs. You couldn't. People were hoarding toilet paper. You couldn't. You couldn't. Oh, I'll tell you a good story. You'll like this. So I'm working as a carpenter. My boss sends me to Home Depot to get dust masks because we're about ready to shut down.
Right.
No dust masks at Home Depot. The management says you have to wear something over your face. Doesn't matter if it's like a balaclava or a handkerchief or whatever. So I'm like, okay, look, if you people want to do stupid, now this is an insight as to who I am. If you
Yeah.
people want to do stupid, I'll do stupid. Okay. So I went to the grocery store, big chain there, to the women's underwear section and get like the underwear bin. And I bought like a half a dozen pieces of women's underwear and I just put it over my head and I sewed it a little bit. So I had a panty mask months. It's like, if you people actually, do you understand this is an airborne illness?
Yeah.
It's like trying to keep a mosquito from going through a chain link fence. It's not doing anything.
No, it wasn't. It
It's
wasn't.
like
It
the
wasn't.
powers that be are just telling you this shit to make you feel good. It's like,
Oh man.
why can't I wear my flip flops to the shower? And this is my existence.
It honestly, it literally reminded me at times like the craziness that was going on during that time. I remember at one time looking at my wife and going, "This reminds me of the military." Like, do you remember that? Because there were just certain things where you're just like, this makes no sense at all. Like, absolutely no sense. But like, nobody could explain it. Nobody could say why. Everyone's just blaming the other guy because they're like, well, Sergeant told me to do this. Staff Sergeant told me to do this. And it's like, well, who originally told who to do this? And no one ever knows. But man, that's wild. Like, so yeah, are you working on another book, or are you
I
just
am
kind of
working on another book.
okay? All right, all
But
right.
it's so freaking weird that it's kind of hard to describe. It's kind of like, I don't want to say science fiction, but well, I suppose I could throw a hand grenade in your in your fart sack if you want.
Yeah.
I'm a student of the Bible,
Okay.
and so one of the things that and I love ancient aliens and the
Nice.
paranormal, paranormal caught on camera, ghost adventures, all that good stuff. I grew up watching Star Trek and all this type of
Okay.
thing, Captain Kirk and the so um why was Goliath 10 feet tall?
Well, he was probably a Nephilim. Yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's never taught.
Yeah.
And so I went to I used to be Catholic
Yeah.
and I have a good education and I became a student of the Bible. So I'll study for about a half an hour every single day. And I've been doing that for 25 years. And you get to like chapter 6 of Genesis. You're like, what happened?
Yeah.
What's going on? And so you're like, wow, man. And then there's Ezekiel describing God's throne coming down. It's like, I'm pretty sure that was a spaceship, dude. I mean,
Maybe.
and so I'm on the path of trying to figure out who the devil is.
Interesting.
Where did this asshole come from? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all space aliens are assholes,
Right.
but there's some of them out there that would, hit you with a cattle prod and cornhole you. I mean, I'm not sure what
Yeah.
what their bag is, but Jesus did say that this eon of time was going to end,
Yeah.
and it might be fugly. I'm not sure.
We don't know. We don't know.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting. It's funny, a lot of people that I've talked to about that, eh, they'll, there's people who like to look at the Bible from, you had to read it how it's written. But I'm like, you also realize that the people that wrote the Bible had no concept of what anything, like if we were to show them an iPhone, right? They would have been like, it was a glass that sparkled and had wild colors. Like that's how they would have described it, right? And so people are like, well, they didn't see anything because they didn't describe a helicopter or a rocket or this or a ship. And it's like, of course they wouldn't have. They had no concept. We only describe things like that because we have a concept of the way, we have a previous knowledge that we use to describe those things. So I think that's interesting, man. Like that might be a banger.
So the book takes place 20,000 years ago.
Interesting.
Because, archaeology is a very subjective discipline.
Right.
Spend their whole lives on developing theories of what things used to be.
Yeah.
But one shovelful of dirt turned over, it could change everything. And so with Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, where they buried basically a bunch of little Stonehenges all over the place with carvings and bas relief and astrological precision 10,000 years ago. So it's
Yeah.
not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you explain it?
I mean, I also like to remind people that like Egypt, we still have not uncovered. There are tons of things in Egypt that we don't know. It's buried under the sand. Like we have no idea. And so I think that's one of those things that history is not a written in stone kind of thing. You know, things can change, and like you said, I mean, it only takes one shovel full of dirt to go, oh well, that was wrong.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Graham Hancock.
Yeah, Graham Hancock. Yeah,
I've read his books and things like that, and the stuff on Netflix. And like I said, I grew up with Star Trek, so I'm just like, yeah, man, this.
this.
I'm not surprised that the archaeologists, being men, were like guessing.
Yeah,
And so, and I'm also really when I was a kid, they told us that there used to be saber-toothed tigers
right.
and mastodons and giant beavers and all kinds of, but 10,000 years ago, they went extinct, right? Have you heard of the Younger Dryas?
Yeah, the Younger Dryas impact. Yeah,
Right.
mm-hmm.
So there, like, for example, horses were in North America for 55 million years, and they all got wiped out
Yeah,
at that time. Who's that other guy that his name will come to me in a little bit. The idea that a series of comet strikes hit the glaciers in Canada and whatnot, just
yeah,
causing just massive floods. And they know that sea levels rose 400 feet in the span of 900 years.
yeah.
So,
Well,
Florida, you could have walked to Cuba.
Yeah, like and like they found all those woolly mammoths up there in Alaska. On that, there's that one guy. He's been on Rogan a couple times. If you've ever listened to Joe Rogan's podcast, Graham Hancock's been on there quite a few times, I think.
Mm-hmm.
He's great to listen to. But yeah, I mean, there's so much evidence that things are not exactly what we think. The problem is, as I say this all the time, I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible, but that's not to say that everything is exactly, I always say that two things can be true at once. And on top of that, that scientists don't like Christians and Christians don't like scientists. But it's like, why can't you just believe in both? Like, if you believe the Bible, right, you can believe that God gave us the ability to create science and things like that. So, like, the things are intermixed and two things can be true at once. And there's nothing wrong with believing that.
They're not mutually exclusive.
That's right.
They could be mutually inclusive because, first of all, the Bible is the most accurate historical document that we have. I mean, people have been trying to disprove what, who was in charge at what time, going back a few thousand years.
Yeah.
If true, I mean, I would guess that life is plentiful in the universe. It's just really spread out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so, whatever has been going on, I still believe that God is in control, and that I've looked at the book of who was Noah's grandfather? Enoch.
Enoch. Yeah, I was about to say the book of Enoch. Yeah.
It's not fun reading, so to speak, but he describes a rebellion, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm trying to noodle through that. I'm like, well, when did this happen?
Right.
And so if the Younger Dryas wiped out all of the megafauna and the huge animals that were on the planet at the time, 10,000, 12,000 years ago, they probably wiped out almost every human being too, like the Clovis society or the Clovis culture.
Yeah.
And they tried telling us that the human beings weren't in North America, weren't in the Americas until like 15,000 years ago. Well, that's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The DNA of Peloponnesians going to the rainforest in South America. And
That's right.
it's like, okay, so let's just shake the Etch-a-Sketch and just start over again and so that's the kind of fun things that appeals to me, you know.
Yeah.
I could go out on the golf course and, humiliate myself, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think this might be a little more fun.
No, it sounds like you're doing good stuff, and it sounds like that's really interesting. I mean, that's and like you said, I mean, the problem is people are scared to ask questions, and there's too many people that I think out there that are like, well, the science is settled or the books are closed on history, and that's like you said, that's bullshit. I mean, I think that will find other things, and man, I'm excited for you. And it sounds like you got a ways to go. Did you have a heart condition? I
Yeah,
seen something
yeah.
on your.
Yeah.
Oh,
Modern
when
pharmaceuticals are keeping me alive.
when did that come about?
I got married. I was promoted to captain. I got a company command, and I conceived a honeymoon baby in 2000. And I went into heart failure like 2 months later.
Wow,
And yeah, I almost didn't get to go to Iraq the first time.
the first time, yeah.
Yeah, somehow the Army misplaced my medical records. But don't ask me any more than that, okay?
So so is it just like you take these every day and it's eventually they may just not work anymore?
Perhaps. I know
Yeah.
how I'm going to die, so I got that going for me.
Yeah, I guess.
Um, I went through. So I have an enlarged heart that
Yeah.
is treated. I'm taking about 5 or 6 different drugs for that.
Yeah.
And my heart is at a normal function and whatnot. So yeah, I mean that was 25 years ago, and I'm still
Man.
alive. So I mean, for me, right? Every day is like a bonus.
Yeah. 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 Man, that's wild. I mean, it's amazing what we can do, with medical science and stuff.
Yeah.
That's insane.
My
Well,
my battalion commander, I went up to him. They pulled me out of a field problem. Like I said, I had been in like for 17 or 18 years, and this asshole in a lab coat was calling me to his office in the Fort Leonard Wood hospital, and he's like, "What made you think you could be in the Army?" And I'm like, "Oh no, this guy is gonna take a massive shit on me, right?" And I was like, "I can't get kicked out of the military at this." I'm like, "It's like our Super Bowl's happening. I can't."
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I begged the battalion commander. He's like, "Kenny, I've got like 20 people begging me not to take them, and I got 3 people begging for me to take them." He said, "You better not crap out on me." I'm like, "Sir, I do concrete form work in the summertime, okay, and so the heat isn't going to kill me. I mean, I got the medications. I'll be perfectly fine."
Yeah.
But something happened, and I was in Iraq for about 10, 11 months when Doc Baker came to me and he said, "Hey, they found your medical records." I'm like, "I didn't know they were missing." Wow, that's interesting. And they said, "You're not supposed to be here.
They just showed up.
You're not supposed to be in Iraq." And I'm like, "Send me home. Send me home." And so they did. I went through medical hold, and because I wanted to stay in, and my heart condition had improved so well, the Army found me to be worldwide deployable,
Wow.
and I was able just to keep going. So there's some scoundreliness kind of
Oh, for
going on.
sure.
So I in a sense I stowed away to
Wow.
to Iraq.
Man.
Whew.
Allegedly. The medical records finally found their way back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
someone just he was behind the desk. I don't know what happened.
Behind the filing cabinet at the bottom. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Colonel Kenny, it has been it's you've had a ride. and you've been around, and yeah, man, I hope I'll keep an eye out for your next book when you finish it. And for those of you who don't know, you have a website. We're gonna wrap it up here. So you got a website, and I think you do. You have any social media pages you want to throw out there?
I have a YouTube channel. Just look up Kenny Dupar, and I have a bunch of shorts. I've done Japanese haikus. I call them Kenny-kus.
Oh, cool.
I've done some. I do dating advice, like why is it so important that you lotion your feet? I didn't know if that was important, but it is.
Wow, that's never thought of that.
Check me out on my YouTube.
You got a great story. For those of you who want to get his books, he's got a book, Scoundrels in Iraq, and the second one was
Dolls and Classic Cars, a COVID love story. Look them up on Amazon, or if you like the audio books, you can find them on Audible.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Colonel Kenny. Thank you for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week.